and welcome back to You Write, the podcast where creativity meets community.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Rachie.
Each week on You Write, we challenge our listeners to write a story in just 30 minutes, using 3 of 5 randomly generated words.
It's a fun and fast-paced exercise to spark your imagination and get those creative juices flowing.
We will read your submissions, offer feedback, and discuss the unique twists and turns of each of your stories.
Whether you're an aspiring author or just love a good tale, You Write is your locale for discovering the endless probabilities of storytelling.
Yeah. So grab a baseball bat, settle in around your favorite baseball diamond, and let's dive into this week's stories.
And remember, the only limit is your imagination. And are we back to that?
30 minutes.
Yeah, so let's see what you got.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, so this is the last episode for our long form stories.
'Tis.
And next week, we're back to business as usual.
Exactly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you ready? You just want to jump in this week? You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, of course.
Yeah. So who did we pick to read?
I believe we picked The Forever Man by the Prismatics 19.
Yes, we did. And do you want to read it?
Sure.
All right, go nuts.
Okay.
All right, so this was Rachel reading The Prismatics 19, The Forever Man.
Yes. Dan Yaris sits in the lounge of Cider Springs Elderly Care Facility, sipping coffee with bags under his eyes. His head is facing down, and his eyes stare at nothing in particular. He is lost in the texture of the carpet, mind deep in thought and consideration. He is no stranger to the contemplations that he is currently having. They come part and parcel with his job. All the same, there are times where he gets into these funks, and in these times he gains the wondrous ability to look through things that are physically there. Chances are that he would not see a unicorn, were unicorns to be real and unleashed in an old folks' home, let alone a coffee table in front of him. Dan Yaris does not work in Cider Springs, at least not in the traditional sense. Dan is well past his working days, approaching 90 in this body. Dan is a forever man, or at least that's what he calls himself. He does not know if he had a life at one point. He merely became conscious one day, and that's as far as he can remember. Those first memories are from roughly 3,000 years ago, but time is meaningless to him. He does not dwell within a lifespan, so to speak, at least not as far as he can tell. Dan will enter into the body of a new person, always elderly, as soon as the body that he is currently in dies. For the first 1,000 years or so, Yaris simply jumped from body to body, experiencing whatever death was awaiting him after a certain period of time, all without knowing why. For a substantial time, he was confined to hospital beds or stuck in rooms at asylums. But lately, he was in and out of constant rotations of elderly facilities. It wasn't until the advent of such places in the 1900s that he wasn't diseased or injured in some gruesome way. Most of the time these days, he is simply elderly and able to have some semblance of life, but all of it makes his job much harder. Yaris has the aura. He noticed it after a while based on his proximity to other dying folk. When he was around, people died peacefully. He does not know if this is a bug or a feature in the system, and thinking too much about the nature of his existence is what leads to moments like the one he is currently in. Ever since the elderly home started, his time in the bodies has become much longer. Most things are the same. He is always in the body of a man, he is dying, and he has been sequestered off to one of those old people prisons and forgotten. What sometimes in the past thousands of years took hours or days has extended to months. He lives a cycle over and over again, and he makes people feel better as they die. As he sits in silent existential crisis, he does not hear the approaching footsteps. A tap at his shoulder, and he jerks back into the real world to see a familiar face of Anita. Anita is a swell thing, a woman of great gentleness and empathy. She has an air of serenity that she doesn't even know she has, and Dan thinks she might be the finest person he has met in his thousands of years of existence. He believes that he may have fallen in love with her, and this terrifies him. He has never had the time requisite to fully experience love. He knows it exists. He is dying, not dead. But he has never once felt this building block of the human experience. Anita glides in front of his chair with the grace that only the old can possess, and sits in the one across from him, the corner of her lips raised in a small but noticeable smile. "Hello, Daniel. Hope I didn't wake you," she says to him in a voice that swims through the air. He sits, his face warming. "No, not at all, Anita. I was just lost in thought," he tells her, managing a smile. It is not genuine. Anita's expression darkens a bit, having known Daniel for long enough to sense when he's not being completely honest with her. She knows that he has told her a great many lies, but most of these are little and white and not worth bothering with. He is nice to her and makes for excellent conversation. Above all, she likes him. Just being around him makes her feel better about being in this depressing place. "What's wrong?" she asks, with the concern of one who truly cares. "I'll be fine, Anita, really. You know how this place can get to you," he remarks, a genuine sentiment. He would not be fine, though. There were two options ahead of him as he saw, two paths that diverge at the same problem. Anita Finch is going to die soon, and worse, Dan Yaris knows it. Being around dying people for so long may have shaped his view on the world, but it is more than that to Dan. He thinks that whatever cosmic force that is doing this to him did it so that he could help people who were going, and as such prepared him for the job. It's like his aura. The knowledge that someone is going to die soon is just an essential part to his mind, that he cannot control it. It happens to him in the same way that a person would have indigestion. One minute, he doesn't have knowledge of a person's lifespan. The next minute, he simply knows they're going to die. He has already had a few people that he's had to help at Cider Springs. As the person in question gets closer and closer to death, the knowledge will become more present in Dan's mind, like a troublesome song lyric that won't leave your frontal lobe alone. It gets to a point where the universe may as well be yelling in his head, and he will go to them. He will sit by their side and wait for it to happen, and when it does, it will be quiet and painless. He is finding it hard to speak with Anita, so he just sits and stares, waiting to hear her sing her next sentence. "You really have been off lately, Daniel," she says, looking truly worried. "I feel so bad that I can't be here for you more often. They give me an hour of recreation a day. You'd think I was a criminal instead of someone getting over a flu." Daniel, strongly suspecting that she isn't as over it as she claims, simply nods and mutters, "I know." It is the first time in his thousands of years that he is holding back tears as he speaks. "Tell you what, I'll leave you to your thoughts," she says austerely, then considers for a moment. "I think they are going to let me off of this restriction soon. If it happens to be before Friday, I would love to go to the movie night with you. We can eat popcorn, maybe hold hands, if you're not still too shy." Her face gleaming with a sudden sunshine of smile. Dan cannot help but feel both joy and remorse at the same time. She gets up to leave, but Dan grabbed her arm as she turned. "Anita, I love you," he said, and didn't fight the tears. Anita's eyes formed tears all their own, and she simply mouthed, "I love you," as she began to cry. Turning away, she wipes her eyes and beams. Seeing her happiness, Dan breaks into the first real cry of his life, and he works hard to stifle the sobs until she is gone. He knows now that she is not going to make it to Friday. He also knows that he won't make it there either. This is where the path splits, but neither option is one that Dan can choose. On one hand, if he outlives Anita, he will have to witness the first being he has truly loved in his thousands of years of life die in front of him. He will have to be there for her to make her comfortable, because if anyone deserves a peaceful death, it is Anita Finch. He does not know how he will continue into the next body after this one, after that happens. This will be the first major emotional blow he has suffered in his eons of dying, and he does not know how to handle such a thing. On the other hand, if he dies before her, he does not know how he will be able to continue on, knowing that the woman he loved will have possibly died in agony and despair. That, too, is too much for his mind to endure. Dan Yaris, the forever man, sits in the lounge of Cider Springs Elderly Care Facility, with bags under his eyes. His head is facing down, and his eyes are pouring tears that he doesn't know how to stop.
Excellent. Good reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I have to say, the Prismatic's 19.
Yes. Yeah.
That this is my favorite thing that you've written on our podcast.
It's full of there's so much emotion there and so much history, like the age of a forever man, thousands of years, and to be struck with this emotion for the first time, like that. You're right. It's very powerful.
It is. I feel that it is extremely, for me at least, like a very creative, like novel concept.
Yeah.
I've never heard a story where I've heard a story where people are like reincarnated over and over, like lots of stories like that. But I've never heard one where they're always going into an old person's body.
Into a dying body. Yeah.
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 Like that is very novel to me.
It is. Yeah. I can't think of anything else like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to imagine doing that for thousands of years, jumping into dying body after dying body.
Right.
I imagine you would lose basically all of your humanity. Like, it's just because you just keep dying and you keep dying.
Yeah.
And for him to have the amount of humanity that he does, to realize that he is probably falling in love.
Yeah.
Is heartbreaking. It really is. But also, it's also very sweet and warm at the same time. You just get both of those feelings at the same time. I'm with you. This is fantastic.
Yeah, totally. And just like the fact that he has found his purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Is kind of cool. Of course, like that's all he knows is being in bodies of dying people. But I guess the perspective of Dan is very insightful, and it's things that I wouldn't have thought about. Like just kind of how he is living longer and longer because of the like progression of healthcare, you know, and how he's experiencing the people around him, and the way I love that he is in love with a elderly dying woman.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Which it kind of makes sense that he would find love there because it's the only community that he's ever really known.
Yeah.
And what's more is it's the only type of community that would accept him and could love him back at the same time. But the fact that it still took thousands of years to ever find that it's very discouraging, but at the same time, so sweet. Like I'm just getting two very specific emotions at the same time while reading this. And it's just this heartbreak mixed with this like anticipation, this eagerness to learn more about this.
Yeah. And to me, it's like a reflection of the evolution of humanity.
Yeah. And medical care.
And medical care.
Yeah.
But also of humanity as far as people trying to help these dying people have some type of life, you know, and meaningful
relationships with one another.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just like people just savagely dying all the time, you know?
Yeah.
But I love the way that it describes Anita, just how things that our society kind of definitely frowns upon, like oldness. He's like, she moved with the grace that only she glides in front of his chair with the grace that only the old can possess.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that like positive spin on that, you know?
Yeah, and to refer to it as a grace. Yeah, it's a kind of a contradiction to what you would normally expect. Kind of, you think like lumbering or shuffling, but it's graceful. Like it's a grace that only the elderly can possess. Yeah. No, I came across that line too, and I thought that's wonderful to describe her as graceful and old in the same sentence. Yeah, it comes across as contradictory, but I feel like we're inclined to be endeared towards older characters in the first place, but she just comes across as like near angelic. Like she's such a wonderful presence to Dan, especially in this point. But at the same time, he's struggling with the knowledge that she is going to die soon.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the part where it's like she has an air of serenity that she doesn't even know she has. She might be the finest person he has met in his thousands of years. So I feel like he has a lot of experience. He knows what he's talking about. And what if she is somehow serving a purpose as well?
Yeah. I kind of arrived at the same idea. Just
she's a very unique person out of all the people he's met in his thousands of years.
Yes. Yeah. And Dan Yaris clearly is also a very unique person in his own right. And so we've kind of got this star-crossed lover theme here. And there's a lot of places it could go. But you could kind of leave a story the way that it ends here. It doesn't necessarily need to go much further.
Right.
But I feel like it leaves us with these conflicting emotions. And I think that's enough.
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily needs more than that. At the same time, there's a ton of cool things you could do with this. But there's so much backstory. You got thousands of years of things that you can pull from. Prismatics 19, I will leave you a reference that this kind of made me think of is Reincarnation Blues by Michael Poore. I believe it's Michael Poore.
Have I read that? Because I'm sitting here racking my brain trying to think of what book I just thought of where somebody keeps getting reincarnated, dying and getting reincarnated, and they end up meeting somebody who's going through the same thing.
I don't know. Reincarnation Blues is like that. The same character keeps getting reincarnated again and again and again in various different forms and times, and like all that aside, the Prismatics 19. I think that if you were looking for inspiration on ways that you could treat a story that spans this amount of time for a single character, I think you could do far worse than Reincarnation Blues by Michael Poore. So because you've got this timeless character, this titular forever man, how do you pin down the important moments of a character like this? And this is clearly one of those very, very important moments. His first experience with love.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a beautiful place to begin if you wanted to go somewhere longer with it. And what's more is if you wanted to keep it contained in a short story, I think this is the one to do it with the theme of love and the expected loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. I love the themes of it. I love the conflict that it gives us. I very much enjoy
so
that.
Beautiful. And I love that Dan tells Anita that he loves her. You know, rather than being one of those lame, like, and he let her go without ever saying, you know, because those are always so hard to read for me. But that he actually says it, I love that.
And it makes you wonder, what could be their experience leading up to her death? It could just be piling on this love that they have for each other right up until the moment. And then it could be a realization for Dan that death can also have love in it. Like you can still love this person in death and beyond. Yeah. And so I just love that idea, and that we're kind of being primed for that.
Yes.
And all the moments leading up to it are some of, if not the most important moments in somebody's life. And to lay them out like this, and for Dan to have so much experience with death. Yeah. I'd be fascinated to read what that looks like.
Yes. It is very, very cool. One thing that it did make me think of, not another story, but it made me think of the Angel of Death cat.
What?
Well,
is it a cat that knows it's like lives in a hospital?
Yeah. Well, it's a cat that lives in like an old folks home, and or at least it used to. And I think it was a boy cat, but he would go like lay on somebody and they would end up dying like that night or soon thereafter. And but he would go and like comfort people as they were dying, you know? And at that point, I think that a lot of people, because some might say, oh, that's terrifying, but I think that at that point, a lot of people are very comforted by the idea of not living anymore.
Yeah, relieved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, having this cat come and just like be there with you is beautiful, and it makes me want to bawl my eyes out, but I'm not going to do that right now.
Okay.
We don't have time for
Yeah,
that.
this is the kind of story that would bring me to tears.
Mhm.
Yeah, given any kind of resolution to like what we were talking about, like going like all the way up to Anita's ultimate fate, which is death.
Right.
Yeah, this would absolutely bring me to tears.
Yeah.
Oh, and to your point about the cat, Stephen King wrote about a cat in Doctor Sleep. Did you ever read Doctor Sleep? It's the sequel to The Shining. Follows adult Dan Torrance around. You should absolutely read Doctor Sleep. You would love it. I think you would really like Doctor Sleep.
Oh, wow. Adult Danny.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan Torrance.
Wow.
But yeah, in there's a heap. I'm sure he pulled it from the story because I knew it wasn't just in Doctor Sleep. There's a cat that goes and it seeks out the dying specifically and lays at their feet.
Or
I felt like that was
maybe
pulled from
the cat pulled it from Doctor Sleep because pretty sure the cat happened way after Doctor Sleep was written.
You think so?
The one that I read about.
Doctor Sleep isn't.
The cat that I read about was like maybe at most 10 years ago.
Because Doctor Sleep was published in... It's really not important, but I'm going to look it up anyways.
It actually is important.
2013, so 11 years ago is when it was published.
Okay. See, I would have thought it would have been way before that as a sequel to The Shining.
No, I think the idea is that it was the amount of time between when it was, don't hold me to this. I think whenever it was published, between the time Shining was published and when Doctor Sleep was published is the amount of time that passed in Dan's life. So he's that many more years old.
Wow.
Again, don't hold me to that. That's just kind of what I thought.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, that idea of expecting death and being able to see death coming is a trope of its own kind, but somebody jumping into dying bodies again and again and again forever, that's fascinating. And like you said, absolutely novel.
Yeah. Love it. Brilliant.
Yeah, there's just little moments throughout here where we get some kind of humanizing qualities for Dan, despite him being a forever man. I love this sentence. He knows it exists. He's dying, not dead. But he has never once felt this building block of the human experience. I thought that was beautifully written, and a great way to describe the feeling of love.
Right.
The sensation of love, a building block of human experience. Yeah, very, very well said.
Yes.
And I also really liked the line, two paths that diverge at the same problem. I think that's a great visual way of describing the conflict that he's facing. I thought that was very creative.
Definitely.
And lastly, the her face gleaming with sudden sunshine of smile. Beautiful. I love the alliteration of that.
Yeah.
The sudden sunshine of smile.
Yes. Sudden sunshine.
Yeah. I just wanted to give you mad kudos for that.
Yeah, that was great.
There's some really great writing in there.
That was excellent.
All right. You got anything else?
I think I'm done with that one.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks the Prismatics 19.
Yes, that was excellent.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And next, we have Procreation by Walker by Faith.
Yes.
I want your thoughts on this.
Okay, so, well, it wasn't surprising. It seemed like a natural progression of the story. Of course, the first part, and but since it's in italics, I kind of thought it was a dream.
Yeah, I thought something was off just by the fact that it was in italics, but
it's a great sex scene.
It really is. Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of hot.
Yeah. Yeah, not gonna lie, Walker by Faith, that works.
Yeah.
That totes works.
That totes works.
Yeah, no notes.
Yeah, no. Okay, so I did quite like the sex scene. I like the part where he realizes that he is not the hero in this story.
Yeah.
And I think that in a way, Sam is like feigning, in a way, in maybe a subconscious way, is feigning this righteous indignation or moral, just like shock at what Sam is. No, what's her name? Max.
Max.
Right? At what Max is doing, because he's not stopping it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you brought that up. And I think that you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes me think that is this line. As soon as Sam's feet hit the floor on the side of the bed, the urge to urinate overcame him so badly that it could not be ignored. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me that he had to pee so bad that he could not stop his sociopathic wife from forcibly impregnating another woman who he's starting to have feelings for.
Yeah. Because
you have to pee.
Right.
I'm sorry, I don't buy that.
No, me neither.
I'm in line with you. Because, it seems like he's like, oh, this is all horrible. This is horrible. But in the back of his mind, which we are in his mind. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, I feel like we should have details, and maybe this is what that detail is. This, like, he's got to pee so bad that he can't go stop this horrible thing from happening. Maybe that's as much clue as we get. Maybe he doesn't realize. I
think that from what I'm getting from this, it is subconscious. But he definitely is not 100% opposed to what's happening.
Yeah.
Because if he were, he would be doing everything in his power to stop it.
Right.
And he isn't, and he hasn't, and he keeps coming up with excuses, And now in the story, it's the pee.
Yeah.
It's the tripping on his boxers.
Yeah.
Whatever. But he's very vocal about condemning Max for it.
Yeah.
This is wrong, and you know it. Okay,
you are
Sam.
just fucking insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are complicit in this, Sam.
Yeah.
Very complicit.
Yeah. And to end it on the sentence, I am getting Ray out of here.
Yeah.
He says, like, he talks a big game, but he is at no point put paid to anything that he has said.
No.
He just seems perfectly content to just ride the ride.
Yep.
And have there's nothing actionable about Sam.
Yeah. But he doesn't want to take accountability for it.
That's it.
Yeah. So he wants to really condemn Max for being a crazy psycho bitch. So that he can be like, no, I was against it the whole time. Oh, really, though, Sam? Were you?
Were you, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wants her to be the bad guy.
Which she is.
Yeah.
She is the bad guy.
But so is he.
He's just facilitating her. Mm-hmm. Wittingly or otherwise, he's facilitating Max.
Right.
Yeah. He whether he knows that's what he's doing or not, he's just there to allow Max to do what it is that she's doing.
Right. Well,
to be
guess
insane.
What? Hitler was the bad guy. Mm-hmm. But all the people that didn't stop him let this psycho do psycho things.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, you're exactly right, because as Sam, he clearly sees that Max has lost it. She's gone to these horrible extremes, committed so many crimes, and not least of which now is rape of Ray.
Right.
So what is Sam actually going to do? Max is fully prepared and capable of putting paid to her words, and she does every single time. But Sam is all talk and no action whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I had the exact same thought, and I couldn't wrap my head around whenever I got to the line that he had to pee so bad that he couldn't go stop Max. I was like, what?
Yeah.
No.
But honestly, I was not surprised by that, because he already even had a chance where he was alone with Ray in the basement and did not do anything about it.
And honestly, I thought that's where we were going to pick up, was them still in the basement. But we have a time jump.
Right.
Which means
he left her there.
Yeah, he left her there, had plenty of opportunities, went upstairs and fell asleep. Yeah. zero sympathy for Sam. And so far, everybody in this story is deeply, deeply flawed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are. They all have serious issues.
Yeah.
And so now it's just this spiraling, like, I don't know. It's just spiraling out of control at this point. And so to see where all of this finally lands, I'll be very curious.
Me too. Did you catch? Well, okay, I could be wrong, but I feel like I caught some foreshadowing. Did you catch the foreshadowing?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
I feel like there was foreshadowing about a twist that's coming up when it said Sam scanned his house from the foyer, spying a jacket he didn't recognize hanging from a stool in the kitchen. Any port in a storm, he thought, snatching the jacket, blah, 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 blah. Whose jacket was that?
I have no idea. It's probably one of the characters that we've heard about but never seen.
Well, whoever they are, they're there.
Either
or
are
they have
there,
been
or
there.
they were there.
Or they were there.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some new twist coming in.
And for them to be there, it's either Max brought them there or Ray brought them there. Well, no, I mean it could be so many different things.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking if Sam knew that they were there, he would know whose jacket it was.
Right.
So we know Sam has no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Huh,
and the fact that it's mentioned that it was a jacket he didn't recognize hanging from a stool, to me that was very intentional.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so much of what's in here that feels like a non sequitur or just kind of out of place, historically, through the other stories, has always come back and been paid off in some way.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought the part about Sam having to go pee so bad, I was like, it's not just there to give Sam something else to do while Max does this. That's important. And it's important that it was included, and it's important that it was included this way.
Yeah.
And I think we arrived at that point that Sam is just not doing anything.
Right.
He's just running from the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very weak behavior on Sam's part.
Yeah.
Because
cowardly.
Cowardly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's not willing to step up and take responsibility, but to leave the responsibility squarely on the shoulders of his crazy wife.
What do you think about this story? Since we're concluding long form stories, Walker's been doing this since October.
Yes.
Or possibly even before then. I'm not sure.
I think before then.
But of the story that we have so far, what do you think of the characters, the themes, and where do you think it could go?
Well, I think the theme is very interesting. I think that the characters are good, but they could be more developed. I think that we could have more details about them, more background. I think the character that we know the most about is Ray.
Yeah, as far as background. Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
And details about what she looks like.
Yeah.
We don't, as far as I know, we don't know anything about what anybody else looks like.
Just that Ray is a total smoke show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we don't know what anyone else looks like. We don't know what their background is. I think that if the characters were more developed, it would be easier to like fall into the story.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's hard to relate to any of them because they all have such deep-rooted issues. Not that I don't have deep-rooted issues. Right. It's just I can't put myself in this situation at all. So it's hard to be there with these characters in that way.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to like identify with them.
Yeah. Yeah, which isn't a flaw of the writing or the characters. I think it just, like you said, they need more backstory. We need to flesh them out a little bit more completely.
Yeah.
And frankly, you could do that moving forward. Like you don't necessarily need to go back and rewrite what you have.
Right.
Just start including a little bit more of those nuances of how they are the way they are, how they ended up this way.
Yeah.
Because I think my favorite stories in this set of stories were the one where we flash back to the party and we get the interaction between Max and Ray at the party, and they're talking about adoption. We get all this back and forth. I loved that inclusion because it gives us so much context for what we had already read.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the story with Ray, going back and contextualizing her as a character and how she grew up and how she arrived at some of these issues.
Yes.
I think Sam and Max would benefit from similar treatment.
Totally.
Yeah. We did get some from Max, like I said, at the party, but Sam was basically off being either ogling or being ogled by Susan or
something.
some other. Yeah.
Karen.
So Sam is still feels like a wild card. So what brought him here? And who is he? Like, why is he so unwilling to take action?
Yeah.
Despite his mind screaming at him like, this is wrong. This is wrong.
Right.
Yeah. What does it take for Sam to actually step up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or step down.
And just let Max.
And just give in to all of his base desires.
Yeah. Yeah, it could absolutely go either way.
Yeah, because right now he's straddling the fence.
Yeah, because I feel like the story needs a hero.
It does.
It kind of needs a hero. And I wonder if Mystery Jacket Wearer owner is our hero.
Oh, could it be the boyfriend?
Ah. But
because
how did
I feel like the jacket is probably belonging to a male if Sam would see it and immediately grab it to put it on. Like if it was a very feminine jacket, would he do that?
Any port in a storm.
You did say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Either way, it's very fascinating. I'll agree it wasn't necessarily unexpected or surprising that it went here, but I did not expect that that's how the procreation would go down. I'll admit that was not what that's not at all what I was expecting. So that was a surprise. The fact that this is where we're at now is not a surprise.
Yeah.
How we got here kind of was for me.
Okay.
I didn't expect, that.
Right. Well, I have to admit that I had zero expectations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a blank slate. As far as I can tell. I don't know.
Good. Yeah. I officially think that Sam is not the hero of this story, as he himself said. So.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think. Up to this point, he is not the hero in the story.
No, certainly not.
Will he become a hero? Could we even call him a hero if he does release Ray? Because he's already been complicit in her impregnation.
Good question. I suppose that depends on everything that follows. Because he did not directly impregnate Ray. He also had every opportunity to stop it.
And he was he's also been fantasizing about, having...
Yeah, literally the first 3 paragraphs of this is him fantasizing.
Yeah, but he also before that was fantasizing about having sex with her while she was tied up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He certainly is problematic.
He is.
Yeah.
That he is.
Is he redeemable? I think it's possible that Sam is redeemable.
Okay. I think that anybody is redeemable.
Yeah.
I just don't know that I would ever be able to think of him as a hero, no matter what he does from here on out.
Yeah.
I might forgive him, but I wouldn't be like, you're my knight in shining armor.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. All right.
Alrighty. Thank you, Walker by Faith.
For procreation.
Procreation. So I think it's now time that we move on to the Ascreus Mons Rebellion by Matt Said Words.
That's me.
Woo!
You do that surprisingly well.
Thank you.
Or, no, that's not surprising. You just do that well.
Thank you.
Okay.
I practiced it even just last night.
Did you?
Yeah. In
For
my
Chewy.
house. Yeah. I was like, and she was like,
holds up 7 claws, 7 out of 10.
Yeah. So Matt, I literally loved this so much.
Yeah.
Yes, and it may surprise you to hear, or maybe not, because I told you before we started recording that the thing I loved about it the most is that it made me laugh my ass off.
And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why that would be, but I'm fascinated to get into it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm excited to get into it. I was literally sitting in my office just laughing like a crazy person. I was alone though. There was nobody else there.
Okay. So it was at least engaging.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was reading aloud and I just kept breaking out into laughter.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Did anybody else experience that?
I didn't.
Okay. I loved it so much that I really wanted to read this one today.
Oh.
But Matt, you know what? I just want to read a few excerpts.
All right. As you will.
Okay. So, but first, before I read those, I want to ask you, so nothing about this made you laugh as you were writing it?
No, not particularly.
Okay. All right. Well, first, I'd like to start by saying it is extremely creative. And it was, I don't know if it was because I was tired, but it was hard to follow for me.
Okay, that's fair.
At first.
Yeah.
And I had to go back and read it like maybe 3 times.
The whole thing?
No.
Oh.
For like the first maybe 2 parts.
Okay.
Just because I got lost about who was doing what, but then I figured it out finally, but I feel like I just wasn't paying good enough attention. Okay, so one of the really funny parts was where he's like, so, how long has it been, Phil asked. Since I played last, Cliff said. Probably 15 years. No, how long since you came here? Cliff considered for a moment and said, I left Earth about 7 years ago, at least. I think that's right. I was a family practitioner when Invotrex pulled applications for doctors. The pay they offered was substantial, and I, with no family of my own, thought this was my chance to get out there, so to speak. I'd always dreamed of traveling, and... No, Phil said, tone annoyed. How long since you came here? I don't know what you mean, Cliff said, honestly befuddled. How long have you been at this colony? Just all the misunderstandings are hilarious to me.
Oh, well, okay. So, yeah, I'll buy that as funny because, it's all just that misunderstanding. Yeah, okay.
And even before that, where it's like, you're up. Cliff apparently took a bit too long to register what he meant. You're up to hit the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, right. Sorry. It's been a while. I guess maybe I just really related to it.
No, and I can see where you'd pull comedy from that because it's just misunderstanding after misunderstanding, and there's it's clearly important, and this is clearly a very strange place. And actually, I'm glad you found that funny, which means that it kind of worked on the level that it was supposed to. Cool.
It did. And when it's like, when he's like, how long have you been at this colony? He's like, well, I prefer, to discuss our business on the back nine. And then Phil's like, I don't recall asking you about business. I asked you how long you've been in my colony. About 2 years. And what brought you here? Like I said, Invotrex. Damn it, I didn't ask why you're on fucking Mars. Why are you in my colony? Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then yes, that worked.
Yay.
It wasn't necessarily meant to be comedic, but the fact that it could be construed as comedic means it's working exactly the way it's supposed to. I was trying to have this misunderstanding just escalate and just get tensions worse and worse and worse. That's all I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
It's just this escalation of tension and misunderstanding. So radical.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Amazing. I couldn't totally, I still don't know where it's going, but I don't know that we were meant to know exactly what's going on yet.
Nope.
No, okay, perfect.
Nope.
Perfect. Because I mean, like, obviously they're on Mars. I like it whenever Phil starts yelling at Cliff when he's like, I just loved it. I had so much fun reading it out loud to myself.
Cool.
Yeah. What makes you think I can do anything about it? And just the way that he's like screaming at them. And I think that Phil is kind of a bit psychotic. Kind of. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Yeah.
Like he's Okay, really psychotic.
Yeah, he's losing all faculties
Right.
that may have once landed him this particular prestigious role as governor of a Martian colony. Yeah. I laid little clues here and there. The biggest clue that I laid is the misunderstanding between Cliff and Phil. Because if you look at the questions that he's asking, he asked the same question twice. And Phil's like, I don't understand. And it's just because he's been so removed from people for so long. Yeah. He has no idea how to interact with them, which...
Or wait, Phil doesn't understand or Cliff doesn't understand?
Cliff doesn't understand what Phil is asking. Right. Because Phil has no idea how to express himself anymore. Right. And so he's just lost in his own world and has no social skills anymore. Yeah, and which can happen. Yes, yeah. And that was kind of the groundwork that I was laying, is setting up Phil in isolation and how he reacts to people. And you can see it didn't go well. Yeah. And just the whole part about like the water, like, well, water from Europa? That's your genius solution? Fucking tidal disaster Europa? Yeah. And it's a fantasy, a fucking wild card. Yes. Yeah. That was actually a lot of fun to write. Just writing a rant. Right. Is like, it just flies off. I could feel it. The rant was hilarious. You thought. And that reminded me of my dad, because used to, whenever we would fuck up, and my dad would be like, what, yelling at us, whatever, like, why would you, and I'd be like, what? I thought, he's like, that's just it. But he would say, that's just it. You didn't think. No, I would say, I didn't think, like, I was saying, like, I didn't think that this would happen. Yeah. Like, I didn't think. He's like, no, that's just it. You didn't think. Yeah, you didn't think. Yeah. You didn't think. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But this one's the opposite. It's like, because see, my dad wouldn't say that because that's pretty offensive. Like, you thought. Right. That was your mistake. You thought. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, leave the thinking up to the intelligent people type of thing. Yeah. My dad would never say that. No. And again, that's little clues that I'm setting up as far as like who the governor is. I'd originally titled this chapter as Phil, but the more I was thinking about it, I was like, no, this is the governor. Yeah. Yeah. We're not, this isn't Phil, this is the governor. Like Phil, I have other plans for Phil and like filling in on filling. And it's more proof that he's crazy when it's like, there's no water here to spare. And then side note, this wasn't exactly a lie. But then later you see the sprinklers and him getting drenched. And of course the verdant golf course is evidence that is a huge lie. There is an abundance of water here somewhere. Right. It's its allocation that's the problem. Yeah. And I want to know where the painting, like, surely that's going to become important at some point. But right now, I just feel like, okay, there's this painting that's talking to this guy. And well, also it's very creative. Like, how do you come up with that? I don't know. I came up with that 4 years ago whenever I first had the idea for this. And I went back and looked at it, and my inspiration for it was I was off Do the Right Thing. So very similar, just like 4 words. I think it was housing was one of them. Systematic, it doesn't matter, but it was basically just a do the right thing prompt, but there was no theme or anything. So I was having a really hard time coming up with an idea for this. I had an idea that I wanted to do something on Mars. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go find like visual stimulus. And I Googled Salvador Dali and I just started scrolling through his works, and I found that one, and I was like, ooh, that's fascinating. It's fascinating. The longer I looked at it, the more just like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And I started diving off into like analysis of the painting and what it could represent and things based off of like what he was doing at the time, and it just led down this huge rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Which is what we ended up with
This
here.
is quite the rabbit hole.
Yes. Yeah. And believe me, this rabbit hole goes deep. I've got outline for this story. Like, the Ascraeus Mons Rebellion is one of like 7 major ideas that I
thought you were
have.
going to say 7 million. I was like, oh, fuck.
So, okay, 7 million.
One of 7 million short stories, which I have penned in the last 4 years. I would be literally worried about you.
No, it's just like whenever you consider the scope of this story and like how big it is, there's so much that you can do in a setting like this. Especially sci-fi, you can run in any direction that you want.
Yeah.
But the main thing that I wanted to set up is that Phil is pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to set up the shifting narrative voice.
Yes. That confused me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to set that up first.
Yes.
Under the let us begin our story, our journey with a man contemplating a work of art. Mm-hmm. Because if I just shift the voice in the middle without having done it right at the start, it would make 0 sense every time it happens from then on.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've got to frame this in some way. And so that's what I set out to try and accomplish. But
nice. Yeah. Loved it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to write.
I want to hear a continuation.
I have
one of the 7
2.
million chapters that you've written.
Oh, this yeah. Okay. I'll see what I can do.
Thank you.
Sure.
Did you put a birth in there or?
In this one, no. I have plans for a birth in this story. I just couldn't get to it. I had to start it. I couldn't rightly jump in the middle and try to write that birth in.
Right.
Especially because this was a total rewrite from the first one that I wrote. So this is subtly different from the first one that I wrote, but it fleshes out Phil very differently than it did before.
Yeah.
So moving forward is all brand new.
Nice. This was great.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm serious. I loved it.
Awesome.
I feel unbelievable since you're the one who wrote it and I'm sitting here talking to you.
Oh, shut up.
Stop.
Oh, stop it.
Oh, stop it. But I'm being honest.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I do very much intend to keep working on it. So.
Yay!
Yay! Woo! A lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it was the funnest one for me to read.
Radical.
Yeah.
I don't know. Prismatics was good.
No, it was great.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I was literally having a ball in my office reading.
Oh yeah,
yours.
yeah, losing your mind.
Yes,
Yeah.
just like
by yourself in your office,
cackling to myself. Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Well, on that note, I feel it's now time for us to move on to
The Evolution of Religion, Part 4, by Steve Living Room.
Hey-o.
Hey-o. Steve Living Room.
Steve Living Room.
All right.
So, what did you think about this?
I thought, I think this may suffer from end of story syndrome. In that we're kind of in a rush to get to the point.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yep.
I feel like between I'll just call them 7 chapters that we were presented with this week. I feel like there's a lot more that wants to be told here that we move across very quickly.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
So there are a lot of interactions between characters that I want to know more about, or I want to know Silas's relationship to these characters. I would like to see their relationship with one another. One that jumped out to me most prominently is there's a very small paragraph between Silas and his adoptive parents. And it's very small. And we got so much of Silas's opinion about his adoptive parents.
Yeah.
But we didn't even get a word of dialogue from them. So those are the types of interactions that I think this story could greatly benefit from.
Yeah.
These individual interactions between our main character and these side characters, these tertiary characters, even between Silas and Reverend Germa, we got more of that, but it's all very fast. We move right by it very quickly. We're told of their interaction, but we don't get to see that.
Right.
We get told of that interaction. That's why it makes me think of end of story syndrome. Like we're trying to get to the end.
Right.
And so we move past these relationships.
Yeah. You know what I just thought of? I feel like this is almost the opposite of a parable. This entry right here, to me, is the opposite of a parable. Because a parable is a story. First and foremost, it is a story. And from that story, we can indirectly glean a lesson.
Yeah.
But this is a lesson. And from that lesson, we can indirectly glean a story.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, excellent way to frame it, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah. It's like putting the lesson in the principal position. Instead of putting the story in the principal position. So it comes across as more of a sermon.
Yeah.
Than a story.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right, because it is a lesson first and foremost. And it's a sermon preaching change and evolution,
right.
as the title says. And the lesson itself, I have a feeling this might not be embraced as well as the story implies that it would be. And to Steve's credit, he did mention there's one point that I thought to myself, the fact that nobody is dissenting at amending the literal word of God on the 10 Commandment tablets.
Right.
The fact that nobody dissented that, I thought was miraculous.
That is it's a miracle.
But that was exactly right.
Right.
It was a miracle.
Yeah, because he wanted it to be a miracle.
Yes. And so that alone is interesting.
Right.
And I think that needs to be, if that's the case, if that's how you're trying to frame that, make that more clear. Give us a lot of description around that moment and make it clear that this truly is a miracle.
Yes.
And you've got 19 major perspectives, not including Silas and Germa. I don't know if Germa is included in that number, but you've got all these major perspectives that you have at your disposal within your story. Use those perspectives to paint us a picture of this miracle.
Yes.
Show the supernaturalisms of that moment, because it came across as fairly mundane, despite it being as, miraculous a moment as, revealing the Ark of the Covenant and unveiling the 10 Commandments and an additional slab to amend these commandments in the future. So that part I thought was interesting. Like it is interesting. It just moves by so fast.
Yeah.
Give us the description.
It does. And I hadn't heard the term end of story syndrome, but I have. Did you just make that up?
I just made that up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's really good, because I think I've mentioned that I'm currently editing a novel, and then the author of this novel sometimes suffers from end of story syndrome. And so it's like he's got this main idea and point in his head of what he wants to get to. He's got the end in his head, so he's rushing through trying to get to that.
Yeah.
I guess that approach can work in some situations, but in some situations it's almost like, what is it called whenever detectives already have an idea of who's guilty, and so they make all the evidence fit it? What is it called? Something?
Oh, is it confirmation bias?
Yes, confirmation bias.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, but to me it's similar to that. Because it's like you have the end result in your mind of what it's going to be. And so you basically just fit everything around it to make it come to that conclusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to quote one of my absolute favorite series, journey before destination. Prioritize the journey before the end result.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the end result, the destination might change.
It might. It absolutely might.
Yeah.
And that sort of discovery, that self-discovery that you embark on each time you begin a new story, that's why I write. Because I end up in places I never thought I would end up.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, but to pull in another example, which is very similar to this, I cannot draw for shit.
Oh, preach it.
Yeah.
Preach it. Neither can I.
I am a nightmare artist. Not not a fun one.
You make nightmares as an artist?
Yeah, like literal ones that are so horrific that you just don't want to gaze upon it. Okay. And so
have you seen you've seen The Good Place?
Yes.
Whenever they're playing Pictionary, and he's drawing a horse, he's trying to draw a horse, and then whatever they draw comes to life, and it's this abomination.
It's an abomination.
Like, kill it.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay, so I'm not that bad. I'm just more like a 3-year-old.
I'm that bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm like a 3-year-old. I'm not even good at stick figures. But anyway, here's the thing though. My aunt was like, she's this very creative person who's always doing crafts and art and all this stuff. And every time I go to her house, which just happened last week for Thanksgiving, she has these art supplies set up. And she's like, we're going to do this. And so several years ago, I went over there. She has a whole art studio of paintings that she's done, which are beautiful. But she's not an artist.
She just has all the supplies.
No, she paints them. I'm just saying she's not an artist in the traditional sense. So let me just tell you.
Okay.
She was like, okay, here's what you're going to do. And first you have to find your center. She's a hippie. So she's like, you've got to go from the back to the front of your head and some nonsense. I don't remember. But then she's like, okay, now look at the canvas. And she's got all these colors. She's like, whatever color is speaking to you, just choose it and just make something. And then I'm like, okay, so I don't know what to do. I make a ocean and a tree and it looks like shit. And she's like, and I'm like, I hate this. And she's like, okay, paint over it. And I'm like, really? And she's like, the more layers that it has, the more depth and complexity. And so I just like paint over it. And she's like, now just do like swirls if you want, just over it with like another color. So I do swirls. And then she's like, now look at it and let it speak to you. And then out of that, I can actually see an image starting to emerge. Just like how when you look at clouds, you can see a shape. So I'll look at my shitty painting and see some shape of something that actually looks kind of cool. And then I just follow what is developing and I start like tracing what's developing and then so on and so forth. And I have made paintings that I would have never thought I could make because I didn't have it in my head from the beginning what I was going to paint.
Right. Yeah.
I just started making whatever felt right, adding it to the canvas, adding depth and complexity. And then eventually it came out to be something that maybe most people wouldn't think is cool, but for me is really fucking cool.
Yeah. No, yeah. And that's like free form or like that free association, that free writing.
Right. And she's always like, it's about the process.
Yes.
Not the end result.
Yeah. And I can say that there is music defined as process music.
Yeah.
In that there is no story behind it. There's no like themes. It's just music for the sake of making music.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's basically you just sit down, you've got your part and you just play. You just play and you've got a group with you and you just sit there and you play your part. And if you want to change something, then you change it.
Right.
And then the group will adapt around you and they change with you. It's you could describe like improv jazz as a kind of process music, although I feel like they have a tendency to be telling more of a personal story. But just the same, like it's that sort of that free form that you're not bound by this goal that you have.
No,
all
totally.
you have is this page in front of you, and now you've got this character.
Yes.
And this setting, and where do they go from there?
Right.
Just let him go.
Just let him go.
Yeah.
It's like not being bound by a goal or an agenda.
Yes.
And I have a theory, which is that if music has an agenda, it is not really music. So, for example,
it's like propaganda.
It's propaganda.
Yeah.
Exactly. For example, national anthems. To me, that ain't music.
I'll describe it as music. Yeah, it's music.
To me, it just doesn't.
Okay, I'll offer you a counter to what I think you're saying.
Okay.
There is a piece, Symphony No. 5 by Shostakovich, was written as propaganda for the Soviet Union. It was commissioned by the Soviet Union to be a piece of propaganda for the Soviet Union. And Shostakovich wrote this and put in all these very Russian themes. But in his own way of dissenting against what the Soviet Union was doing, he actually wrote in different tempo markings, but erased them later. And the idea was that by changing the tempo of even these themes, he's creating a different message that is dissenting against the Soviet Union through something as simple as a tempo change. And so it changed the whole outlook on the piece, and it became like anti-propaganda for the Soviet Union, but well after the Soviet Union was done.
Right.
And so it wasn't until many years later that we find out that, this symphony had a completely different story by the composer himself.
Right.
And it was only through this means of this kind of rebellion.
Yeah.
So there are ways that music as propaganda can be something else, but it is still at its core with an agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would call that piece music, correct?
Piece music.
No, you would call his work music.
Yeah.
Okay, but that kind of proves my point. Because he didn't make it as propaganda. He made it fighting against the idea of making it as propaganda.
But it was received as propaganda.
It was received as propaganda, but it wasn't propaganda.
Yes.
So anyway,
it's Schrodinger's symphony. It both is and is not propaganda.
Schrodinger's symphony. Now you're trying to skip ahead to the ending.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But Steve, how do you do this?
Yeah.
How do we go off on these tangents every time?
Okay, so at the very beginning of this one, I got the feeling that Reverend Grima was going to be a bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like, even the very first line, it's a strange sort of power being in touch with every single major religion's leader and most government leaders. Reverend Grima said. I'm like, okay, so up until this point, Reverend Grima has been very humble and very down to earth.
And then suddenly he just pulls out this huge gun and flexes, says, look at this.
I'm like seeing his like eyes darken like how Jafar does in Aladdin. When he starts to get the power and he's like, and he's just like,
this is an audio. Nobody can see your face.
Okay, and he's just like suddenly being overcome, like kind of getting off on this power trip.
Yeah.
That's what I got from Reverend Grima. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going in a whole new direction. But then that's not, I have access no one else on this planet has.
Yeah.
To me, well.
Yeah, hella flex.
That's a fucking flex.
Yeah.
Why does Reverend Grima feel the need to flex to
Silas?
Yeah. He's like, you know what, motherfucker? I have more power than you can even imagine. It's like, why, Reverend Grima? Why are you doing this?
To what end?
To what end?
Yeah.
Not the president, son, not the Pope. No. Nobody has the private direct contact information that I have.
Yeah. Massive flex. And again, to what end would you be telling Silas this information?
But then that's not where it goes.
It's not at all. Yeah.
At all.
But it is, I guess, meant to set up the religious leaders that show up later to the unveiling of the Ark of the Covenant. So that's how, maybe that was to lend credibility to the fact that these these religious leaders are present.
Right.
Because Reverend Germa,
was a bad bitch.
he's got this card and he's gonna play it. Yeah.
That part, and also and then after a while I was like, oh no, that's not where it's going. But then where it says something like Reverend Germa was, what does it say, like stroking balls or something?
Don't remember that part.
I think that's an Iranian, Persian term for like kissing ass. What does it say in here? Oh, stroked their ego.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Silas watched and listened to how RG soothed people, stroked their ego. And that made me go back and be like, okay, maybe he is somehow manipulative, Reverend Germa.
Yeah. It's laid out as just his charisma. Like he's just a very charismatic person, but the way it's described as stroking somebody's ego means like feeding them
what they want
to hear. Yeah. It doesn't come across as, I think, quite as innocent as I think we were meant to think it is.
It definitely sounds a bit dark.
Yeah, and what does one have to do to have this level of contact with this many leaders? It can't all be good.
Right.
There's got to be some darkness in there. And I think Walker by Faith said it. It's like, without the darkness, how can we truly revel in the light? So we've got a lot of light here.
Yeah.
I need some darkness. And I really did think that we were going to get some, especially the way that it started out, like firm villain vibes.
Right.
But it never went that way.
No.
So yeah, I think this story can benefit from some darkness to contrast the positivity of the message that it's trying to get across.
And I kind of wonder if darkness is coming not just because of those things, but because of the complete utopia which follows.
One man's utopia is another man's dystopia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because it's just like, and suddenly there was total peace in the world.
Yeah.
It's like,
give me the foil to that.
Right.
I need some reaction against this. It all felt too smooth. It all happened too easily, too quickly. Nobody dissented. It hit the world by storm and everybody loved it. The word of God was amended and the world did not panic.
Right.
That does not.
They were like, okay, yeah.
And you can frame it as a miracle, but there ultimately will be a foil to it. And that's what I think this story needs, is some sort of foil.
No, totally. And then I started thinking, is Silas the foil? Because there towards the very end, when it's like Silas was finally able to sneak away and call home, his parents answered with, Silas, it was you all along, wasn't it? To me, it was suddenly Silas was getting credit for this new world order.
And he could react against that, you think?
No.
Or people could react against him?
No, I'm saying that it could be setting Silas up to have some sort of like God complex.
Ah, yeah.
That's kind of what I saw.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, wait. Didn't it say at the beginning that only one of the religious leaders didn't show up?
Correct. Is that the one that we're meant to?
Who is that? Is that the Antichrist? I mean, who is it? We got the Shia, the Sunni. We've got the Protestant, the Catholic, the Orthodox. Do we have a Catholic? We have the Pope. Yeah.
Yeah, Pope. Yeah.
We have the Dalai Lama. We have. That's all we have.
I think for the sake of brevity, probably we don't get listed everybody who is present.
I would like to hear who all is present. Or maybe it's not listed so that we won't immediately deduce who the missing person is.
Yeah.
Who do you think it is? The missing one?
The leader of atheists, of course.
Oh, okay. But is that a religion?
No. It's
but
it's
some
literally the word itself is no religion.
No, but some people define it as a religion.
That's ludicrous.
Well, it's just like your definition
It's
of religion.
Literally in the name.
Okay.
No religion.
No, it's literally in the name no God.
No God, yeah, which implies
it's a religion based on there not being a God.
That's not fucking right at all.
Okay, well,
I believe that. I can absolutely understand how that would be construed as a religion.
Let me just share with you a very quick 30-second parable, which will bring my point home, which is that when I was in college, there's all these sororities and fraternities, right? Mm-hmm. But me and a select handful of people were very against this concept. And we were like, we hate them. Sororities and fraternities. We don't want them. We don't want to be in a sorority. Fuck that. But then one of these select few was like, hey, we should like start a club that's like the anti-sorority club. I was like, then we would be a fucking sorority. And so we remained disbanded and we never named ourselves. Okay. I'm pretty sure the atheists have conventions and they are named atheists. So they are a religion.
I will respectfully disagree.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So to bring it around to what I was thinking and what kind of threw me off is the line right at the beginning of the 7th chapter. They rose to the occasion, religious, agnostic, and atheists alike gathered in love and hope. Mm-hmm. I need to see that.
Oh, yeah.
That needs more detail. Mm-hmm. You can't lump everybody into these groups and say, love abounds.
Right.
And not show me.
Yeah.
And show me what that looks like from each perspective.
Right.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
It is not fair to either group that's mentioned, religious, agnostic, atheist. It's not fair to lump that in without their perspective being included. Just to include the label and not the perspective is very unfair. Mm-hmm. And I imagine the same goes for all the various religions and world leaders or religious leaders that are listed at this unveiling of the Ark of the Covenant. To list them and what they represent here and put them in this situation and react in such a way and not show their perspective, their history, their religion, and what it means to them is very, very unfair.
Okay, yeah.
And that's my biggest point of contention with this story. Mm-hmm. You're not doing credit to the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
Because I am one of these people and I felt misrepresented.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe some more research into some specific perspectives from each of these groups.
Or simplify. Simplify the scope of the story down to one religion, one leader, one small group of people. Make it intimate. Don't make it global.
Yeah.
I think this story needs intimacy.
Yeah,
like
totally.
That's what it's missing.
Totally. I really enjoyed the kind of Indiana Jones vibe I was getting. You know?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And at first I was thinking the artifact would be like the chalice. What's it called?
Oh, the Holy Grail.
Yes, the Holy Grail. But Ark of the Covenant works too for Indiana Jones. But but it is very, very specifically Abrahamic religions focused.
Yes.
So it's like, this is an Abrahamic religion artifact. And the Abrahamic religions being Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This is a very specific artifact to them. The Ten Commandments as well. The other religions, that's not a thing in those religions, you know? So I think it's interesting that all of the world religions came together around this Abrahamic artifact.
Yeah. What stake do they have in the future of these artifacts?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, we need to see their perspective. And I think I may be able to sum up as show, don't tell. Don't tell me anything. Show me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, I think if you can get around to showing individual perspectives, add some intimacy, give some detail, maybe scale back the scope just a little bit. I think there is promise here, but as it sits now, I was kind of mad whenever I finished this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I felt horribly misrepresented.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's my personal take.
Mm-hmm.
So I do very much thank you for bringing it to us.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely got me thinking. It also kind of got me spiraling, but just the same, I'm thrilled that you brought this to us, and I'm so happy that you felt comfortable sharing something like this with us. So thank you, Steve. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah. Not everybody's gonna love everything that everyone writes. So this is one of those occasions that I really didn't enjoy this, but I'm glad to have read it, and I'm very glad that you could bring it to us. So thank you, Steve. Thank you very much.
I think that in order to be like received by a wider audience, and there needs to be a whole lot more research done. Yeah. A whole lot more like seeing things from different perspectives.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
And moving on.
Yeah.
We have Birth of a Club.
Birth.
By Nick to You.
Birth. Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're getting more from this story with Hannah and Nee. And we kind of get it's like an origin story. Despite we only have like 2 entries so far, but I love the like a group coming together story.
Right.
So this is like right up my alley. This is my wheelhouse of things that I will like. If you're writing a group of people coming together with a common goal and they're all very different people, I love that. I love seeing people come together like this. And so this is a lot of fun. And I know writing this many characters simultaneously is tough.
Oh, yeah.
Like keeping their voice in your head anytime they need to speak up and say something and keep it uniquely them. It's hard. Yeah. That's very hard. And we have 7 voices here.
Yes.
So, which I don't think that was a mistake or coincidence. I think 7 is a important number for a group, or in Kingism, a quartet.
Oh.
Yeah. A group bound by a purpose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. Very cool. I got kind of ish Stranger Things vibes from this, because it seems I feel like it's a bit of a throwback. Because of like dudettes and stuff like that. Yeah. It seemed a bit 80s-ish to me. Yeah. And just these kids that are like getting together, banding together to like protect and rescue people. I don't know, I just like feeling that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and just that these are kids going out to protect people. And we already have an entry of them protecting adults, and even was it Nee gave their phone to the guide, but just these kids acting kind of beyond their age, and forming a group to do something that they see a need and they're prepared to fill it. So
yeah, it's awesome.
It's very cool. It gives me Losers Club vibes. So, and what's more is they're not all friends. As a matter of fact, there's some contention between them already. Yeah. Despite us having only just met most of these characters. Yep. Which I thought it's fascinating, and I love to see that kind of dynamic moving forward.
Me too. And I really like it.
Even just within this story, their dynamic is a lot of fun to read.
To me, their dynamic is very relatable.
Yes.
Like just like they felt awkward and uncomfortable. Like I was like, "Hey, welcome," and he acted like I didn't even exist, or he didn't even see me, or like register that I was there. That's just like very real. That kind of thing happens all the time. Yeah.
Of these characters, which one are you? I'm the tall, skinny one in the back that's not saying a damn thing. I'm just like, oh God, nice. What are we doing? I am. I mean,
I'm just gonna be honest. I'm knee.
Yeah, you're knee.
I'm knee.
You're knee. We
I'm
all knew it.
Fucking knee. Everybody
just had
knew
to
it.
say it.
Everybody knew I was knee. I'm knee. I'm knee.
Yeah.
I'm the one who would be like trying to welcome everybody.
Yeah.
And also some people would just be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know?
You're the glue whether they like it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes, exactly. Also, the description of the hot dog eating, where it was like, I looked over at Hannah and saw her face contorted in horror and disgust. Well, it's funny because whenever I was reading that description of the hot dog, my stomach growled.
You're like, that sounds good.
I was like, that sounds delicious.
I'd eat a hot dog.
Hell yeah. Relish and mustard. Yes, please.
Yeah. Oh, and I like that because we know that Hannah's mother is a chef.
Right.
And she's looking on at this.
And she's a vegan.
Yeah, and she's looking on at this kid eating this horrendous hot dog. And just like
I had forgotten
horror and disgust.
I had forgotten that.
Yeah, and we get Nee's reaction that they suppressed a laugh, and it's like, yeah, that's a wonderful moment.
Yeah,
so,
it's great.
And well pulled in. A very subtle pull.
Yeah.
For what we know about Hannah so far.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, why would she be looking on in horror and disgust? Oh yeah, because her mom's a chef and she eats way better than that.
Exactly.
And she's a vegan.
Yeah. And that's disgusting processed meat, which is delicious. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't be Hannah because Hannah just seems so cool and just so like got her shit together, you know, and she's just like, I don't know any other words to use.
Cool. Put together.
She's like...
she seems pretty grounded.
Yeah, but she's just like, I don't want to accept you necessarily, but all right, I'll give you another chance. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right out of the gate, it seems clear to me that Hannah is toad smacking on knee here.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Think we'll get enough? I asked Hannah. Maybe not, she said. Mm-hmm. But I think if this was just something the two of us were to do, I would still enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're sweet on each other.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I just love seeing that reinforced again and again.
I know,
again.
I do. Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah. Lovely.
This
all
was
the warm fuzzies.
Fun. I know, this was just fun.
It is a lot of fun, and I like that we're getting this larger cast and these different personalities that you can pull in at certain moments whenever they're called for, or whenever they're not called for. You can see how the sparks can fly, or they can solve an issue that only they can solve. I love these bigger casts. Of these characters that you'll closely inspect. So very cool. Very cool.
Super fun.
And do you still think that we're in a video game world? I don't. I at this point have no idea what the incursions are.
I feel like we're almost like, it almost kind of reminded me of whose story is that about the work camp? Oh,
Richie's. Richie
It
Pleasure.
Almost like kind of reminded me of that type of world where some people have one-ups, but like the less privileged people don't have one-ups. It's like, it's a dystopia world where privileged people have these advantages. And
that's today.
Yeah. No, exactly. We're living in a dystopia. But just where, I don't know, they want to help the people who don't have the one-ups. It's almost like, it's just like a world where there's somebody keeping track of people's points or something.
Yeah. The setting is the biggest mystery that I have so far. And the way we keep avoiding it just makes me more and more fascinated with it.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
What is it?
What? Yeah. Just what? Very cool, very intriguing, and love all your characters.
Yeah.
Very dynamic group, and that seems like they can help each other as much as they can hurt each other, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like they're all there for the same reason, but they all have very different ways about going about their business. So, very interesting.
Yes.
All right, what else you got?
I love it. It's fun. It's exciting. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right. Hey, thank you so much, Nick. To you.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And our last story for this week is The Boss by Richie Posier.
All right, so we are getting, I believe, somewhere between the original story and our prequels that we've been enjoying.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Seems like we jumped over the interaction with Uncle Benny and landed firmly at the start of Nick's time in the program.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I think, I actually like that choice, especially, I mean, it seems like you have the interaction with Uncle Benny planned and maybe written. I'm not sure. But I like that this is where you leave us for the long form month. I think this is a great place to leave us off with such a vivid character as Boss.
Yeah.
Boss's vivid character.
Boss is very vivid.
Gives me Full Metal Jacket vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's intense. I like how he starts by quoting scripture.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a really good idea. Like, to intimidate people. As soon as they show up, and if you're in charge of whatever, just like quote a psalm or something.
Yeah.
Or something from the Gospels. And
it's intimidating for so many weird reasons.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's it's sobering.
It's sobering.
Yes.
And also they must have like a fairly clear head on their shoulders to be able to recite this passage from memory.
Oh yeah.
That actually gave me Pulp Fiction vibes. Samuel Jackson's character laying down scripture before he caps.
Yeah.
caps the motherfucker. Yeah.
Yes. It's intimidating.
Yeah, I liked the inclusion of the scripture. It was unsettling.
It was unsettling.
And the whole time I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And then it was just abundantly clear when I realized, like, oh, it's that. It again, it made me think Pulp Fiction, made me think Full Metal Jacket. It's all a means of intimidating these people.
Yes.
And it's effective. It really is.
I'm going to start doing that on the first day of class.
going
Nobody's going to understand me because they don't speak English, but I'm just going to stand up there and be like, as you walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
Not me.
Not
you.
me. You.
Welcome to the valley of the shadow of death.
Exactly.
Yeah. That hits hard.
That
goes hard.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Oh, please do that.
I'm going to. Maybe I'll just go ahead and get that translated into all of the potential languages.
I have a feeling they have been translated.
Well, yeah. I need to Google those translations.
Okay.
And then print them out and then hand it out to everybody, depending on their language, first day of class. And then I will say it in English. And I will dress in something like a blazer, something scary.
A pantsuit, yeah.
With shoulder pads.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I can see you doing that.
And he'll be like, as you walk.
You point to just that person in the corner. Oh no, we're losing it. We're losing it.
We gotta pull it back in. Oh shit.
All right.
Oh shit.
Reel it in. Reel it in. Reel it in. Okay. So us arriving at the program via this bus and all the description that we get, the dilapidation of San Antonio. We get landmarks. 350 Hofgen is an actual station in San Antonio. Amtrak station, the Alamo.
The Ripley's.
Ripley's.
The Legoland. The whole thing.
Yes, all those.
The whole thing.
Like all these landmarks, you're clearly rooting us in a real place.
So this.
And to see it contrasted and just this, just ruined.
So for the first time, I think in this series, we're coming to realize that we're in a kind of a post-apocalypse type of world. Maybe not post-apocalypse, but post something extreme.
Yeah, post-traumatic San Antonio. I don't know.
Traumatized
San Antonio, yeah.
Yeah.
Post something major. Yeah. Not clear what it was. So I thought he had mentioned somewhere that there was like a specific type of like bomb or damage that was done to downtown San Antonio.
He did mention that, but I forgot what exactly it was.
I can't find it. I feel like there's a point where it's mentioned exactly like a type of attack that was done to the city or to a building. But I can't find it. But just you paint us a very, very clear picture. Like I had a very vivid picture in my head of what this all looked like, down to the bus and the seats.
Yeah.
I actually had a question regarding a description of the bus. Are there bars on the window? Because then it is very much like a prison transport. If not, then like I don't know. I thought that was something that I wanted to ask you if you would include that or if you would exclude that, because I thought that was an interesting that could be an interesting detail.
I thought you were saying you wanted to ask me something. I was like,
no, I want to ask Richie.
Well, I get that now, but
would you add bars to the
no,
bus?
you're like, and I was gonna ask you. And I was like, where is he about to go with that? Like, if I've ever gone to prison on a bus with bars or what?
Have you?
Not that I recall. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but I don't think it has.
Yeah. I think the shining star of this story, this entry, is your descriptions, and boss.
Yeah.
Like those two aspects of this story just are wonderful, very descriptive, very clear, and it just worked. It worked perfectly.
It worked very well.
It kept me engaged all the way through.
Totally. You know, whenever boss is talking, he's like, don't try to escape. If you decide to quit, you will walk out of here with double your initial debt, including food and board accrued during your time here, and an interest rate to match, though that might start to sound pretty sweet after too long. That part just made me feel very fucked for them. It kind of drew me in, and it made me, because at first I'm like, well, you can leave. Oh, wait, no, if you leave, then you got even more debt, like way more debt. But then it was like, wait, but that actually might be a good alternative because it's going to be so rough.
Yeah, because you'll still be alive.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that really brought it all home.
It really did.
Yeah, that, and you put it at exactly the right place in the story, and you have the exact right character saying it. To have boss come out and this is where he leaves you with a smile on his face. You'll double your debt and you'll have an interest rate to match, but that might just be what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of so many like prison. It's a prison guard trope, but it reminded me so much of like Shawshank Redemption. You know? What's that main guard's name?
Oh, I can't remember. It's been long enough.
Yeah. But it really, like, I was really like envisioning him. Hadley.
Hadley?
It's
yes,
Hadley.
It is Hadley.
Yes.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Hadley. That asshole.
Hey, what else you got for Richie here?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very effective. I look forward to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, and this clearly has a lot more to say, just based on the kind of extremities that we've seen. Like, we've seen Nick well into the program. We've seen Nick before the program. So there's a pretty large scope to this story. So
yeah. Can you use extremities like that?
I just did. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Whether it's allowed, air quotes.
Because when you said that, I pictured flailing arms.
And legs. The intro over here is like this flailing arm, and the end is like this flailing arm.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you have flashbacks. That's like this.
I was picturing like Long Boy, or what's his name? Slenderman. Slenderman. And his like limbs, his extremities just going everywhere.
Like a wacky, waving, inflatable, arm flailing tube
that's
man.
kind of what I was picturing.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thank Rit.
Thanks,
Richie.
Thank you, Richie. That was delightful.
It is always delightful, and it's a wonderful story. If you feel like bringing us more, by all means, keep bringing us more.
Yes.
But we are officially concluding our long form stories.
Long Bimber.
Long Bimber.
Oh no, it was Novel Bimber. We just concluded Novel Bimber.
Novel Bimber.
Novel Bimber.
And that officially moves us straight on into episode 18.
Woo! We owed.
We owed. Oh, and hey, shout outs, guys. Thank you. The Prismatics 19, Walker by Faith. Myself, I submitted a thing.
Yes.
Some thank me. Steve, Living Room, and Richie Posier.
Oh,
and Nick to you. Sorry, I skipped over you, Nick to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might write again now that Novel Bimber's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really wanted to write more for this month. I really did.
I resent you all. Because I feel like we were not allowed to do this.
We were. And I tried. I just ran out of time.
I still resent everybody.
I envy you all. No, this has been a lot of fun to go through all of these. So thank you guys for participating. I realize it's been a lot of writing. So thank you.
Great job.
Yes.
Great job.
And episode 18.
Yes. I'm so excited.
So our theme for episode 18.
Fuck yeah. Yes. Oh, do you want me to say it?
Sure.
Well, it was my idea, so.
Yeah. So go nuts.
Our theme for episode 18, wait for it.
Our theme
for episode 18 is contronyms.
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 That was a brand new word to me as of this week. Had no idea that was even a word.
Yeah. So contronyms are words that can mean opposite things.
A word that can have opposite meanings within itself. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I said.
Yeah. As I was writing the Reddit prompt, I was like, how do I say this and not make it be like words that have opposite meanings? Like, oh, those are just antonyms. No. Contronym is like one word.
It's a single word. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example,
go on.
I like to use this example because this was a huge point of contention between me and Dr. Larmer. There's no way in hell he's listening, so it doesn't matter if I say his name.
Okay.
But he is my main professor and advisor when I was getting my master's in classical literature.
Mm-hmm.
He's British.
Oh, I know this guy.
He did not like me.
I don't know him.
Right,
I know
but you know
of
about him. Yes.
Yeah.
He did not like me.
Yeah.
At all.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I was obsessed with him. So the harder
of course you were.
the harder he disliked me, the more I was obsessed with him. So anyway, one time at a conference in which I was presenting on sadomasochism, and afterwards, and there was a huge crowd there. I think just because of the name of my paper that I was presenting.
I mean, hell yeah, I'd go see that.
Hell yeah. Anyway, afterwards, Dr. Larmer was like, what did he say? He said, you answered the audience question. Oh, he's British. That's an important point. He said, you answered the audience questions happily, and you did quite well. And I was overcome with joy and glee. And I was like, Dr. Larmer and me do have a future.
We're gonna get married.
And
then we're gonna get divorced, but then we're gonna get remarried.
Exactly. And who knows what after that.
Yeah, who knows?
But anyway, but then later on, only years later, I had founded that in British English, quite means kind of.
Quite well.
Right. But in American English, it means very.
Mm-hmm.
So,
rather.
Yeah, rather. So when he said you did quite well, I thought he was praising me, saying I did really fucking good. But actually he was saying you did kind of okay.
You did mediocre.
Right. And that was a very sad moment for me that, I don't know, 3 to 5 years later when I realized that.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's okay. But the main point is that's a contronym.
But that would be across British English and American English.
It is. So that was a little bit different because it's in the same language. It's in English. But
I liked the example that you sent was, and the way that it was phrased, they garnished his wages with parsley and basil or something.
Right.
Yeah. And basil. Yeah,
yes.
basil. That's not a thing.
So garnish wages is to take them away.
Yeah.
To detract.
But to garnish a dish is to add to. Yeah.
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 So it's a word that can have two opposite meanings depending on context.
Yes.
Yes. Also known as Schrodinger's word.
Schrodinger's expressions, I believe. Yeah.
Also,
because the context is the defining characteristic of it being a contronym in the first place. So it cannot be a contronym without the context that surrounds it.
Right.
So otherwise it just is this word in this definition, or it is this word in this definition.
Right.
The context is what makes it a contronym.
Can you give us more examples of a contronym?
I'm sure I can, if you give me a little bit of time here.
Well, while you're doing that,
okay,
I'd like to mention that another phrase or another synonym for contronym.
That tickle you?
I am so clever and ridiculous.
Synonym for contronym.
Another synonym for contronym is, you can call it a Janus word.
Yeah, that made sense to me. It's two-faced.
No, stop, wait.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you just totally stole my thunder.
Oh, God.
Okay, so Janus, for those of you that don't know, is in Roman mythology the two-faced god. Okay? He's got two fucking faces. One of them is super young, and that one's looking back. And then another one is old, and he's looking forward. But guess what? Guess what, everybody? Does the word Janus sound familiar to anybody? Anybody? Don't answer, Matt.
Oh, damn
anybody?
it.
Okay. All right, you can answer.
January.
Yes, January. Because January is a month. It's the first month of the year. And in January, well, what do? We got them New Year's resolutions. What do?
You're looking forward.
You look back and you're like, what the fuck happened last year? And everybody's like, oh, I did this. Here's all the things that I achieved and all the things that I fucked up. And then they also are looking forward.
Here's all the things I'm going to achieve and all the things I'm going to fuck up this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Janus, he's the two-faced god. January, Janus word, contronym.
Yeah. Contronym, out. The moon is out, meaning it is showing. The lights are out, meaning they are not showing.
Right.
Yeah, it's all context.
Yeah.
So for it to be defined as a contronym within your story, it all depends on the context in which you use it.
Right.
So with that...
You're probably wondering why we're talking about this.
It's because that's the theme for episode 18. Try to use contronyms or a contronym, and we're going to do our best to see if we can spot it.
I would like to encourage all of you to use at least one contronym because I want to be rewarded for my treasure hunt.
Your reading efforts.
Yes.
Yeah, which are profound.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. I've never been told that before about my reading efforts.
Yes.
Did you really mean that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You genuinely approach each reading assignment. I say assignment. Each reading with enthusiasm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the theme is contronyms. Context is your key, and our words for next week are explicit, river, energy, chicken, and dribble. got us a definition for explicit.
Yes, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier, which is that...
Yeah, so we totally had an audio issue, and we lost the last 12 minutes of our recording. So here we are again.
And here's what it sounded like. Okay, so explicit is the opposite of implicit. And also it means obvious and direct and not subtle.
Yeah, and you can define language as explicit. You can define somebody's behavior as explicit. Basically, it's too forward.
Forward.
Okay, river.
River is a body of water which is flowing, and it's not super wide, or it could be, but it's longer than it is wider.
Yeah, and it terminates in the ocean.
That's right.
Yeah. All right.
And it's also a male's name.
River? It's a male's name?
Oh, well, I'm sure that there's females out there named River, but I know 2 males named River.
Really?
Yep. Dose of them.
I find that surprising.
Really?
Yeah. I figured it'd be a girl's name. How about oh God.
You're okay.
How about energy?
Energy. Energy is a unit of expenditure or potential expenditure.
And it is categorized in many different forms. There's heat energy, there's electrical energy, there's potential energy, there's mechanical energy.
There's kinetic energy.
There is kinetic energy. And it is classified as watts, joules, Celsius, Fahrenheit, Kelvin.
Whoa.
Amber is the color of your energy. Oh, shades of colors play naturally.
What is that? 411? 311? 211?
Yeah, 311. You're all around it. You're right there.
All right.
Okay, how about chicken?
Chicken is a dominoes game.
That's chicken foot.
Right. Okay. Chicken is a car game where you try to slam headfirst into another car.
Oh, a car game.
Yeah.
I thought you said a card
nope.
game.
Nope. I said an automobile game where you try to die.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's a burb and food. And it's,
right.
Yeah.
And it also means being a fucking coward.
Yeah.
But I'm a member of a Reddit group called Eat It, You Fucking Coward.
You told me about that. It sounds horrifying.
It is. It is. I am horrified by it, yet I keep looking at it.
And yet. Yeah. It's just a train wreck. You can't help but look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And lastly, dribble.
Dribble is a thing that you do with a ball where you kick it / bounce it. It's also a thing that comes out of a baby's mouth.
Or just people. It doesn't have to be a baby.
It's usually somebody who doesn't have control over their motor skills. They don't have muscle control.
Distinctly, babies are known for their lack of muscle control.
Right.
Yes.
They ain't good at it.
All right, guys. Explicit, river, energy, chicken, and dribble.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be like these wonderful writers and submit your story to You Write, head on over to our subreddit at reddit.com/r/youwritepod.
If you're unable to submit a story this week, that's fine. You can help out by reading and commenting on other individuals' stories.
Each time you post a story or leave a comment on someone else's submission, you increase your chances of having your story read on the podcast.
You can also reach us at youwritepod@gmail.com.
Did that get you?
Yeah.
And if you like our show and want to help support us, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/youwrite.
If you are unable to donate, that's fine. You can help us by sharing the podcast with other writers and non-writers alike. Basically, any human will do.
Yeah, any human.
Or animal.
All animals, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like, we need we need more. I feel like yaks. We're missing yaks.
Oh.
If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you know as soon as new episodes are available.
Also, be sure to leave us a rating, any rating.
Any rating.
And a review in your podcatcher of choice.
we will be reading a review as soon as we get another one on the next episode. So
get bland.
Or create it. Yeah. You know what? Give us a bland review.
Right.
Yeah.
We just want
just a light tan review.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, join us next week on You Write,
a podcast where you write.
Okay.
Where you write.
Bamber's the color like November G.
Oh. See y'all next week.
Novel Bimber G.